Labrīt visiem! Šodien tiekamies atkal kārtējā laivā, un šodien būs otrais laivs mums angļu valodā. Zinu, ka daudzi no mūsu sekotājiem, mums pirms laika bija arī poliņš, klausās satura angļu valodā, tāpēc es ceru, ka nebūs daudzi, kam šis neies secen, bet šīs dienas viesis mums ir ļoti interesants, tāpēc es ceru, ka lielākā daļa no jums varēs klausīt. Šodien mums pievienosies Elias, kurš jau kādu laiku, viņš pats nav no Latvijas, bet kādu laiku jau dzīvo Latvijā. Tikko nosūtīju uzaicinājumu viņam, es ceru, ka viņš arī saņems. Pēdējā laikā ar Instagram laiviem ir tā, ka es sūtu šos uzaicinājumus, bet viņi kaut kā neuzlec tiem cilvēkiem. Elias, I see you joined. I sent you invitation, but I'm not sure if you got it. Maybe you just can send invite to me as well. Yes. I hope you hear me well, because today is really snowy and hope it won't interrupt connection. Elias, I sent you invitation again, but I hope you get it. Can someone at least is unable to join? Elias, maybe you can send an invite to collaborate, like from your side, because lately it works better that way. I don't know why. And yes, today's conversation will be a lot of topics. Elias has very wide background in various teachings, so I promise it will be really interesting. But yeah, first we would need him to join. Elias, I see you joined I send you invitation again, but somehow get the notification that you are unable to join. I don't know why. Maybe you can try to send invite to collaborate in this live. Can anyone wave? At least if you... okay, here you come. It's joining.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I see. Hi.
All right, here we go. Yeah, so the trick was that you cannot join from the computer, at least I couldn't.
Okay.
So I had to use my phone.
Okay, but here you are.
Yes.
Hello once again, everyone. My name is Signe, and today we have a special guest, Elias, and this will be only our second live in English, but we have done polls before. Most of our followers are also listening and reading content in English. Hearts start to come, so I guess everyone hears as well. And yeah, so hi, and today's topic of our conversation, your choice was how to stand tall in the eye of hurricane, which is a broad topic by itself. But I already, while you were joining, made a brief introduction that you have a very extensive background in various healings.
Yeah.
So not to limit it into a couple of words, I would rather ask you to introduce yourself and how you got on this path, and what kind of main teaching steps you've been taking, and where are you now? And because you just to precise that you are right now based in Latvia. So if ever anyone will be interested to meet you or go for some session, you can do it also here in live. And yes, please, I'll give the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, it's good to see you again. Thank you for inviting me to this interview. I'm also getting a new sense of Latvian winter because of the snow this morning. Yes, I'm based in Riga, Latvia currently. I'll most likely stay here for a while. So as far as my background, for me, things started pretty early because in my family, there was always some introduction to spirituality, usually from my mother's side. And so I was associated with mystics and energy healers, and we would go visit from an early age. I would be introduced into that world. But things really haven't started for me until I was about 21. And the big opening was a movie, actually, that many people might know, called The Secret. It's a movie about the law of attraction and featuring Esther Hicks, or Esther Abraham Hicks. And so this, for me, was a big moment because I realized that there was more to reality than we understand. And since then, I've never stopped seeking to understand what that more is. And for about the last 10 years, it became a full-time job, almost like an obsession, really trying to understand myself, first of all, trying to understand life around me, how things work, and so on. And what I found along the path is that we have to step beyond the boundary of the physical, of the senses in the physical world, to start understanding the background of the mechanics of life and how they operate. And so this is how my journey took me. And along the way, I just picked up whatever I felt was appropriate for my own setup, what I needed. And that just happens to be energy healing work. I studied different mystery schools. Some of them are more earth-based, like shamanism. Some of them are based in ancient teachings from Egyptian alchemy. And then some of them were done by channelers who connected to higher intelligence. And so there was a mix of all different kinds of things that helped me put a picture together of what was needed for me to progress and develop. So it has been going on for about 15 years now. And so here we are doing an interview today as a product of all that. But yeah, if there's anything more specific that you would like me to share, please.
You said a very interesting thing about, first of all, you wanted to start to understand yourself, and I think about starting to understand yourself, and the starting point for every one of us, it's very, very clear, settled, and box who we are. It's like, I know who I am, what are my beliefs, my values, my backgrounds, where I'm going. It's kind of all clear. And then you start diving into this journey, and then it becomes like less clear. And in some moments at least for me, I feel like, okay, I got onto something. Okay, it might be like that. And then you dive a bit deeper, and it's like, okay, but like still it's not coming all together. So there must be more and more. And like, do you learn more? Do you kind of get the scope of much more dimensions, but at the same time it becomes even more unclear, at least for me, how it goes with that discovery for yourself?
Right. Well, it's a tricky thing because, as humans, we have these overlays of mind, overlays of personality, of emotions. Sometimes it's traumas that we carry in our body that are rooted all the way into the cells. And so, especially when these things start surfacing, then it becomes very confusing. And so really the question is then who is this self? Because there could be so many things happening at the same time. And also the self is such an elusive concept because it's a subtle thing. It's not something that you can give someone a method about. It's a process of self-discovery. It's something tricky has to happen in order for a person to realize that. But for me, it has to do really with awareness, really being present with what's in front of you, and always being observant, being witness of everything. Because you can notice that, for example, emotions, they come in waves. They come as a cycle. Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. But everything that is of such nature that changes constantly cannot be, that is not permanent, to me cannot be real, because it is ever changing. So you look at that part of you that is always the same. You look for that part of you that is always in the equilibrium, that is always in the same place. And for me, that's our own awareness. And so cultivating more awareness, more presence, being more observant of things that come and go. And it's even more apparent with the mind, because mind never stops. It's in constant flux. So finding that still place to where you become aware of it is really where the spirituality for me starts. So it might sound really simple, but it's actually really challenging thing to practice on a day-to-day basis, especially with all the distractions and other things that we have.
And today's topic was how to stay tall in the eye of hurricane. Can you tell me more why this was your choice and how you feel it and see it in your life, and why it's the topic to talk about it now?
Yeah, I chose that because I think this is something that's most needed at the time, because obviously we are going through great changes. Collectively, we're going through changes individually. And just when you look at people and what people are facing nowadays, there's a lot of uncertainty. Some people feel many times that they're changing too quickly, that there's a day when you suddenly just feel off, there is emotion you cannot explain, or there is some other thing happening in a life that's more tangible that seems like chaos. And it's all a product of a global awakening that I'm also sure many people are aware of. And what is asking us to do is to look deeper inside of ourselves and to start uncovering all the things that we have suppressed over the years, all the things that maybe we were not willing to look at. And so these things are starting to surface, and in the beginning starting to create more confusion. So now at this time, it's very important to understand what are the tools and how can we stay balanced in the midst of all of this happening. There's many ways to look at it. Partially, it has to do with different celestial alignments and part of the cycle that the Earth is in. Because in its basic understanding, Earth goes through 4 different ages or cycles. And there's the dark age where there is confusion and where we're removed from the intelligence of the great central sun. And then as we pass through that age, then we enter the age of energy, which we are currently in, where we start understanding energetic properties, and we start utilizing things like electricity and other forms of energy that help us develop our life further. And then after that, of course, there's even further progress and development. But the most important part to realize is that this is all about spiritual evolution. It's not so much about just material progress, because we have reached a point where there's nowhere else to really go as far as the material progression. We have more comfort and more, our needs are taken care of more than any time in history before. Everything is available to us. I mean, even just look at information. You open up social media today or YouTube or anything like we're doing, and you can find information pretty much on anything. So things are so readily available, but we have not quite yet really grasped what it takes to evolve spiritually. So I think that is the next step, and this is the reason why I chose this title, because I feel like that we are really in a time of uncertainty, in a time of change, and now people will turn more and more to that inner understanding, to that spiritual discovery. And so it's important to talk about, it's important to share, give people understanding, tools, help everyone along the way.
Yeah, and this hurricane seems like, at least now, since COVID started, it happens also in outside world. It's not only like, in spiritual awakening, which has facilitated spiritual awakening, of course, as well.
Yes.
And also in spiritual and mindfulness world, when you look on the practitioners, like there are very different approaches. Some of them say, okay, these things are happening, but we go inside, we meditate for a better world, for a better outcome, for more peace, for everything. And then there are also part of the practitioners and I would say even thought leaders who say, okay, what's happening, it's not fair, we need to fight it, stand against it, kind of different approaches. One is to stay focused in myself in the midst of it. Another is like, okay, how we can stop this hurricane. What's your belief and approach to this?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Is the external reality is an interesting mirror of what's happening inside of us. And so there's probably many ways to look at this. One of it is that what's happening in the external world will always come from our own either harmony or our own imbalance. And the way we approach what's happening in the external world comes from the same place. So we should not negate what's going on around us. And of course, we shouldn't be lacking in compassion. so that we remove ourselves from it, or we don't want to participate. I believe that truly being compassionate is being very active in the world and participating and doing something about it. But if we want to do that, we have to understand that our balance is the starting point. So if we don't understand ourselves and how we work, how can we be at our optimum? Then how can we possibly go out there and make any difference? So to me, this is the twofold process that needs to happen. Is one is acknowledging the reality and saying, well, these are the things that are happening everywhere around me, and how can I participate? But then finding a place inside of understanding yourself and what are your unique gifts and talents with which you can participate. How can you create an inner environment where you have stability to which people will be attracted to, from which you will be able to assist? Because if we take on the external chaos, make it our internal process, then really there's no way out. So everybody has to find that stability to then be able to participate in the world. And hence so many different approaches, as you were saying, so many different practitioners. I think that people need to hear this in many different ways, because we all have a different specification, what works for us, what we're looking for. So all the teachers today coming out and speaking about it in different ways is so they can match everybody's belief system, everybody's way that they need to do it. So to me, that would be the approach, is the understanding this one, coming into balance with this one, and then from there participating in the world.
And still, like, I know there are people who can balance this to find that inner peace, and then also it's different perspective what's going outside, but there are lots of people who feel overwhelmed with what's happening outside. What would be the first starting steps to gain that inner peace, to find that balance, that stable ground?
So for me, speaking from personal experience, was understanding that being human means multiple things. It's human experience comes with an understanding of many different layers. So if I'm saying that I feel off today, or something is happening that I don't understand, then I have to look into what is the totality of my experience as a human, so I can understand where is this exactly coming from. Because if we look only into ourselves as a physical body, we can never understand spirituality or what happens in the world or why. But if we start going deeper into a meditative process, into an internal process, then we might start discovering that there are different perceptions that we have as a human. So for example, one layer of it, that every human being has subtle energies, and very few people really understand this. Maybe even fewer people can truly experience it. But the fact that our heart is beating, the fact that we're animated, that we can speak and so on, comes from a subtle energy body that surrounds our physical body, that animates every function, especially functions that are unconscious. Like, we cannot control our heartbeat, but it's still happening. So there must be energy there that's making that happen. So this is one layer of human experience that many people don't have access to, because they have never really been taught how to do it. Then beyond that, we also have an emotional body, and that we can at least feel frequently. We can understand that something is happening emotionally. But what is emotion? Where does it come from? What is its origin, and so on? Then the mental body and all the mental processes, inputs of the five senses and so on. Then beyond that, there's the spiritual aspect. So like this, we are multi-layered being. Understanding these things is very important, especially at a time like this, when people are becoming more open to energy. Like today, most everybody has this understanding, even if it's just in a conversation, that everything around us is energy. And so people are slowly starting to understand that there's more to us than just the physical reality and the input that we receive from the senses. Once we start getting into these areas, then we can slowly start putting the picture together of why things happen as they do. How can I respond to them? Because if you can perceive yourself from these multiple different levels, if you learn how to work with them, then you can really truly start coming into balance and into alignment within yourself. So I think it's time that we as humans acknowledge that there's much more to us, and that we start learning really what is our own system all about? How does it operate? How does life around us operate? And so on. So far, it has been only pursued through physical science, mostly through physical science, and that has only taken us so far. But now the time is to do it metaphysically, to go into some of these deeper layers and start getting the complete, more whole picture.
Yeah, and quantum physics and many other research is going on right now, and basically already proving their proving once again their truth is kind of also giving more clear ground to many metaphysics teachings and spiritual teachings which been around us for thousands of years, but especially in last couple thousands, it's been seen as something bad, wrong, and science has facilitated. But the new science coming in, it's basically taking us back there where we were, I don't know, 5, 6, and 12,000 years ago. Like it's the circle you talked about in a way.
But it's helping people really, because many people need to understand it through science, because that's been the only thing we've been able to see it in the last few hundred years. So now when these things like quantum physics are coming about, they're showing us in a very scientific manner that there is something beyond. So for many people, that's the first step then, that they understand that, okay, if the science is really proving this, then let me explore and it's easier to believe in something that's tangible, because we live in a very tangible, apparently tangible world. So yeah, I think this is a great step. And this is also part of the same process of evolution, is that not only that people are seeking within themselves, but everything else around us is now showing. Even different phenomena and things that we see in the world that is changing, and even in the science and the experiments that science does. But so yeah, this is all going in the same direction.
Yeah, that science, why many say it's like, has also lots of critics, like that new science proves like what ancient culture's been knowing for thousands of years, and it's not really a discovery, and etc. But I think it's very important, as you mentioned, to open those doors, because for some people it really can open that little part in their mind where they actually allow themselves to a bit dive into that area. And then once you dive in, you start sometimes it's even not more so much understand than to just resonate to it. But we even don't think how many of us have concepts and stigmas around all this metaphysical aspects and esoteric and, let's say, magic, and it's like, it's all bad, and it maybe comes already through the centuries of, I don't know, starting even the witch burning, and maybe even goes further. We don't understand that it's not even ours, but that the kind of stigma is very clear. If it's like esoteric, no, I'm not going there. But the new science kind of will open that door, and I think allow wider population to start this journey.
And I think that's also why it's important to understand that Earth really constantly goes through the cycles, because then you can really see how the unfoldment of human evolution happened. Because now we're drawing also on many things from ancient cultures, as you're saying. We're starting to understand how Egyptians did it, how maybe some previous ones like Atlanteans did it, or even closer cultures that were more recent, like Aztec or Mayan or something like that. So we're drawing on that knowledge. So it's very important to see that and to understand that, and also to know that this is not some sort of a disaster or something has gone wrong, that we are not all enlightened. It's simply that part of the age that we were in. We were in the age of darkness, and we're coming out of it, or we're now slowly out of it. And so what it happens in terms of astronomy is that the alignment with the part of our galaxy, which is the very center of it, that transmits the intelligence throughout the space, that our planet has not really been fully aligned with it. So then, of course, you're going to go into ignorance, because all of our intelligence eventually comes from the same source. And so when we are off balance with it, where we're off the alignment with it, then we go into these states where we just believe that the world is all physical, and because it's so, then we have to be in survival and protect each other and war with each other and so on. So I think it's useful to look at the bigger picture sometimes, not so much from a perspective of history or studying history or things like that, but really looking both back through the history and also forward into the future, and then understanding that we're on a part of a cycle. Which part is it? And how do we perceive? It gives you much better understanding. So then we can see that this is natural that's happening. It's natural that people are awakening because the cycle, one cycle is ending and another is starting. And everything else reflects that, science and all else.
Yeah, it's not, and it's actually, it's not so scary. It's very exciting. As you said, you just like, you just want to have more and more of it at some moment. And of course we have also things to do here, but it might be also a very exciting journey, like a journey. And what's your, like, how you take part in all this? Like, we met through the crystals. I bought some crystals from you, and they are my first crystals. But you you also do other work. And what are those other modalities? How you help people right now, or how you facilitate their processes?
So one part is the energy healing work. This is something I've been doing for probably about 8 years now. And it's simply to help people in the moments where they might feel stuck on the journey and not really maybe understanding why the movement forward is not happening. So providing energy healing sessions allows me to get people into a state where they can really relax and their energy field can open. And then we can look into what are, and from an energetic perspective, what are some points that might be stuck that need movement? What are different layers of their subtle bodies that might have resistance to the change that they're experiencing and so on. So we try to move these things energetically to create a better environment within their system that helps them progress further. If you look at carefully what's happening, everything now that is provided as a service is geared towards accelerating human evolution. How can we do it faster? Because somewhere it seems like it's almost like we're catching up with ourselves. We're trying to evolve, but things are not quite happening fast enough. So tools are now given that this can be accelerated. So part of that is energy work. Another part, as you mentioned, is crystals. And crystals are not the only way. Every kingdom of nature now gives us the same opportunity. Whether we are looking into the plant world or animal, every other kingdom of nature that is participating with us in this reality is now giving us chance to awaken through their own unique gifts. So when I work with crystals, it's really about acknowledging that crystals are living consciousness, just like we are. They might be so in much different way, but you can still interact with them. You can still try to understand the life of a crystal. And each crystal species comes with qualities, certain abilities that they have that can actually help human system. You can hold a crystal next to your body and you can receive a healing from its energy interaction with your energy field. And so this is how I incorporated crystals into the healing work. Then another aspect of it is what I call return to nature. And what that means to me is majority of human problems really come from that for a very long time now, we have been removing ourselves from the natural environment. And because we're so surrounded with technology and the modern comfort that we have in this world, that we don't really realize how big of an impact this has on us. But the fact that we have removed ourselves from a natural environment, removed ourselves from interaction with elements of nature, with kingdoms of nature. Most people, when they're taking a walk in the woods, they could be looking on their phone and not really taking in what's around them. Sometimes I've even been in places where people go camping and they never leave their camper. They stay inside and watch television, right? But what is the expanded view of this? Life is everywhere around us. Living life is not about another screen. It's about interacting with the living environment that's around us. So I try to bring back the sense of interaction with elements of nature. We start going into theory, but also practical experience of how do you connect again with the element of earth? What does that do to your body? How can it help you balance and recalibrate your body? Then what does the element of water mean for us? I don't just mean drinking water, but really the spiritual aspect of water. For example, maybe not everybody knows, but water aspect has to do with our emotional body. It can help us heal our emotions tremendously. And it's very simple, actually. It doesn't really take much. It's not a big philosophy. But we need to start getting out there and interacting again with nature and with the elements. And then we have the fire element that, as we know already, helps us purify, burn out things that prevent us on our path. The air element that can bring a lot of insight. They can bring very healthy environment to our mind. And then the space element, which is all about transcendence and all about spirituality. And so when we start combining these things, learning how to access them again, then the nature really gives us opportunity to kind of reintegrate back and restore our wholeness, because essentially we are the part of nature. We cannot remove ourselves and live in these boxes and expect to function still in the same way. There are some simple things like, for example, when you are constantly in an enclosed space, first thing is the element of space is being restricted, so the psyche immediately takes notice, and people start getting kind of uncomfortable being always indoors. Then if there's no circulation of air, then it becomes even worse, to where we can feel sometimes completely off psychologically, simply because there's no movement of fresh energy that air brings. Air holds prana, the pranic force in it. So just these two elements, if we restrict them in this way, they already throw us off balance pretty easily. So this is part of the work, is to take people out there into the nature, to show them simple ways of how we can reconnect, and then to talk about it, to spread awareness about it. Other parts of the work are something that I already mentioned, which has to do with the multi-dimensional experience of what it means to be a human. And it's not so esoteric as it sounds. It really is a part of everybody's system. So teaching people, showing how can you access some of these other faculties that we have. How can you understand that there is a vital energy body? What can you do about it? How does knowing about it or being able to access it actually benefit your life? How can you enter the space where you can experience the emotional or the mental body? What can you do so that you can create balance within those, so that you can have a more full experience of what it means to be a human? And then going further than that and seeing what are some of the higher aspects of our being, which we really term spiritual, finding out that they're really accessible to us, that they try to participate in our life every day, but we are the ones that are usually blocking it off from our experience. So as you can see, as I'm painting this picture of what the work is, it all seems to come down to the same thing. It's all about opening up of the perception. And this is both on individual level, which each person is trying to do now, and also globally, as the earth is changing, as the collective consciousness is changing. We are looking to really open up our perception and to understand that there's much more to life than we thought we knew. And a lot of that comes through the expansion of the senses, expansion of what we know nature is, what we know surrounds us, really starting to understand that there are forces there, energies there, call it dimensions, worlds, that are readily available, that have always been there, but we have been cut off to communication, interaction with them. So that's the part of the work, is to help people break those barriers and open up into a wider reality. Because if we don't do that, then what happens is the energetic input of the changes that are happening, the massive input from the celestial radiation, things that are coming from the sun, things that are coming from the center of the galaxy and so on, even things that are coming from the earth magnetism and how it's interacting with us and so on. These things are now pushing too much energy through the system. And if we don't work consciously on freeing up our system from all the constrictions that we put on ourselves, then somewhere in the process the system will break, because it won't be conducive to this enormous energy flux. So we have to open up. That's really the bottom line, is that we have to learn how to flow with the changes. So that sums up all the work, and the tools are different, the ways of doing it are different, but that's really the core of it, is the opening up and awakening of the human awareness.
Yes, and you've been doing it in many places. Like we talked before, you originally come from Croatia, right? And then you've been working also in States. Now you're here. Maybe on your journey you've been settled permanently somewhere else. Like, do you think we all going through this process more or less the same pace and the same way, or you still see differences in the way how people approach these changes and new ways?
Yeah, I think a part of it is the same for everyone, is that the changes are happening to everyone. Not everybody might be aware of it the same way, but what's going on the planet is obvious at this point. even if you're just looking at increased weather activity or social upheaval and so on, you can understand even just from that perspective something tremendous is going on. But the part where we're all different is that we're all individual souls on a journey. And this journey is much more than evolution on one planet. And this is really sometimes a far out concept to grasp. But Earth is like a school for a soul. It's a place where you come to learn for a while, to experience something, to grow. But the evolution happens then in other places as well. As you evolve from here, you might go off someplace else. So this is the part of the understanding that each person has a different blueprint and a different setup. Some of us have been here a long time. We have been learning from this Earth school over and over again. Some people come here just for a while and then they go off and so on. So both of these things are happening simultaneously. The unique evolution of each individual soul being in a human body, and then the big earth changes and everything that's happening globally. These things are happening at the same time. So of course, not everybody is going to see it the same. We all have a different level of understanding, but inevitably it's happening to everyone. So then the attempt is that to try to make at least information available to everyone, to try to give tools for every level of consciousness to understand how to slowly come up to the next level and the next level and so on. So that's to me, that's how the picture looks currently.
You also offer soul restoration sessions, and what's that about? Because we kind of all have a souls, but
you know, it's sometimes you do work and you have to name it, and it's a tricky thing to do. So I just looked for what's the best way to express that. But so soul restoration sessions are different than the healing work because they're not in person. They're usually like this with somebody via video call, and that's because most people cannot physically come to you. They might be from other places, or they might have a too busy schedule and so on. And sometimes there is an urgency. A person might be experiencing something that they don't know how to handle, and they need help right now. So they cannot really reach you physically in that moment. So we try to make other ways available. So the soul restoration is really just, you can say, consultation. It is trying to help people understand what might be happening with them in that moment, and then also taking a step further and trying to help them also correct what might be happening. So part of it is a consultation, a conversation, answering questions, trying to provide understanding. But then beyond that, trying to do some remote healing work and see where things can be fixed, even in the session, to provide an easier way to move through what the person is moving through. But interesting how I titled that, because that same work really applies even to a healing session when you come to a healing session. Because for me, healing sessions were never about physical healing necessarily. Of course, this is something that can happen as a product of it. But for me, it was always about this soul alignment, understanding this multiple layers of our being, and then trying to put them back into balance. Because what happens, most people have some aspect more developed, but others are not really looked into. So then trying to amplify those parts that have not been active and align those parts that they already have strong, so they can function more as a whole person. So this is the scope of the work, whether it's a remote work or work in person.
Yes, and you also have upcoming course about self-discovery through mystery teachings. Yes, what's that about? Because there are a lot of ancient esoteric and mystery school teachings. Not so many of them are present here in Latvia. In fact, I haven't, I think, met anyone. But there are many, I know, in New Zealand and other places. And what's that about?
So for me, this is something that happened because I just felt very fortunate to have good teachers in the past and to find people that did this type of work. But I never intended, at least originally, I have not intended to teach this. It just happened over the years that I came to an understanding that this can be something helpful for people. So then I try to put it out there. It has to do with this same thing that we've been talking about too. The whole course is about trying to understand yourself from a wider perspective, trying to access these other parts of our human consciousness that are not currently active, that we're not currently using. So we start the whole course with the first 2 classes that just cover the basics. They show us how to do things in a metaphysical way, in a spiritual way. Things like how to tune into intuitive guidance. What can you do tangibly? Sit down and actually do something that will help you enter that space where you will hear inner guidance, where the inner guidance can lead you in your life. Then from there, when you are going about any type of spiritual work, how can you create a safe environment that you can do that in? And people call that spiritual protection. That's a common term, but there's different ways to look at this. Like for me, it's a matter of creating a right vibration in your energy field, where you will attract only those things that are beneficial for you. Spiritually attract. I'm not now referring to physical manifestation, but spiritually. How can you attract, for example, help and intelligences, spiritual intelligences that will come and interact with you, trying to guide you and lead you, that are for your evolution? Because one of the things that can also happen is that something is out of our unawareness, that something is attracted to us that is trying to impede our evolution, that is trying to distract us on our path. So how can you make sure that these things are cleared out of your vibration so that you can attract only that which is for your benefit? Then that leads us into the next class, which then shows how do you clear your system if you feel off. If you feel that something is energetically off, that something emotionally is off, or maybe just mentally the thoughts don't seem like they're yours, like there's some sort of negativity going that shouldn't be there. Then what do? How can we stop, sit down, and do something that will help clear our system? And so these are some of the things that we cover in the first couple classes to give people basic understanding. When you are trying to approach something spiritual, how can you come with the correct understanding, with the right vibration, with creating a safe, sacred space around you where you can do that work in a correct environment. And then once we cover the basics, then we go into these things that I've talked about, like multi-layer of human perception of vital energy body, emotional body, mental body, astral body, and then spiritual bodies that come beyond that. In the first few layers, we try to clear to the best of our ability and align all of our subtle bodies, particularly the first 3, the vital energy, emotion, and mental body. Those 3 are very closely related to human experience. They help us create this reality that we know as physical world. They help create this body that we know as a physical body, and they help us function emotionally, mentally, to be able to relate to the reality, learn from it, have an input, to read the input from it, and so on. But when we start going beyond that, then we enter spiritual aspect of ourselves that we really don't need to fix much, but we need to tune into and draw on its gifts and draw on its abilities, so then that the spiritual energy can come into us, that the insight can come into us. So then when we're in this world, we're operating from a higher level of consciousness, which allows us to do much more in the world, to be more stable, to bring some gifts that we inherently have, but maybe have never discovered. So after we work with these, I'll just call them for the sake of common understanding, lower bodies, after we have worked with them, cleared them, and aligned them, then we touch up on those spiritual bodies and we try to draw the wisdom and all the different aspects that we need to function here better. So by the end of the class, when we reach, and there's 9 different classes that will go until sometime in January every week. Then when we come to the last class, then we do this thing that I call complete soul integration. Then we try to bring the entire human experience from the physical out through all these different layers and try to put it into one whole, so then the person can understand, okay, this is the totality of what it means to be human. And so this is what the work is. And it's, for me, it's a great joy, because this is something I always wanted to explore. This is something that always interests me, but also a great challenge. How can you take something that you know and transmit to somebody else? Because we're not talking about something you can read in a book. You're talking about something you have to convey as an experience. So that's the challenging part of it. And so, yes, this is what the class is, and thank you for asking about it.
When it starts, because you said it goes until Jan, right?
It's starting actually next Tuesday on the 28th, and then every Tuesday until, I think it's January 23rd. So for 9 weeks, we will be going with the course. And it's online course, or it's happening in person? It's an online course. There's an event made on Facebook. Okay. It is titled Self-Discovery, through personal transformation, and then it says mystical teachings by Elias. So this is how people can find it, and then you just receive a Zoom link and you join the call on the day of the gathering.
Okay. And also sometimes you, in a way, you might get the same work also, like doing individually or reading, but like the group sometimes can be very facilitating to some of the processes, especially like when there is a teacher who is in another level and he's telling you the concepts and you kind of believe it, but you are in a very different stage. And then when you understand there are other people from the same stage and they start to get, and sometimes we even have those first experiences, but it's hard to believe that, that was, what I felt was real, or what I experienced was real. And then you're going into this along with other people who are having the same first insights and the next insights and next, and then you understand, okay, it's not a coincidence, like I'm changing.
Yes, it's like a ladder system. There is always somebody on a higher rank from you and then one on the lower. So you're always either being helped by someone or you're helping someone else understand what's happening. People help each other in that way. But for me, it's also different than individual sessions, because then you have to accommodate to everybody's understanding what you're trying to present. So one of the ways that I found most efficient to work with is to, before you start with anything, you actually put people into a certain state of mind, state of their energy and their consciousness, when they can come to a state of clarity, and when everything that is transmitted there is really understood much better. Because, and it's really simple, it's not that difficult to do, even for somebody at home. Like, one thing that's very important that people usually overlook, I know I did for many years, is to understand the importance of relaxation, physical, simple relaxation, and to understand how many layers of depth of relaxation you can actually reach. Because what happens is that due to our modern lifestyle and the way our mind operates, we build enormous tension in our body that we usually don't notice until we need to go see a chiropractor or something like that, or have a massage. But if you pay attention to these things earlier, you will notice that every time we become tense, it's because there's either a belief system that's active, or there's some emotional trauma trying to be released that we are resisting. There's some energetic imbalance always in the background. So when you practice physical relaxation, you get an opportunity to watch deeper and deeper layers of your being. As you go through the process of relaxation, your mind also is going with you. So relaxation actually allows you to start perceiving things on a more subtle level. So before we start every class, we go through a thorough process of relaxation. And then other things, like we set intentional vibration of what we want to connect with, and so on. So creating this environment is essential before you start transmitting anything to people, because then there's more openness, then there's more understanding. That deeper layer of being is more receptive to and more clear in terms of receiving input. And so that's, for me, that's the way to work. And that's why a lot of my work comes through guided meditation, because that's the best way to communicate some of these concepts that are beyond our normal perception.
I was just a few weeks ago to Joe Dispenza's retreat, and he basically also kind of scientifically backs what you are saying, because we all the time are living in those very high beta brainwaves where we don't have access to that, because that's just purely our conscious mind in alert state, even in alert state, not like in a kind of natural state, like we are all the time in the stress. And then to get to access that unconscious, you need to change your brainwaves, and you can do it through relaxation, through meditation or other ways. And then when you get in the theta, you get access to both. You get access to your conscious and its subconscious. But when the subconscious comes, conscious is able to integrate it. There is no like, okay, it's not, that was weird, it's not happening. So you actually into the state where naturally you're accepting that part of yourself and part of everything. And what's weird, you're saying about relaxation, when I was in Thailand, I went every week to the foot massage. Because it was cheap, it was so, I'm not even so big massage fan here, but there is just, it's naturally so nice and was my thing. Once a week was my thing. And what I noticed there, that once I'm in the chair, I start to get what I thought like downloads. I felt like I'm in the tunnels and receiving information. And I thought, wow, wow. But at the same time, I'm conscious. I start to get solutions for problems at work or some other issues I'm solving. I thought, oh, it's, I'm kind of accessing something. But only later when I understood the brain, like learn more about brainwaves, I understood like, okay, I'm relaxing. I'm changing brainwaves from that, beta alert to the theta, where I'm tapping into the both kind of, and it was purely to even physical relaxation.
Yeah, that's how simple it is, and that's how much it helps. One important thing about this brainwaves also that's very, very currently very active is that the Earth's frequency is also matching those brainwaves, particularly the beta activity right now. So what the Earth itself is doing is it's vibrating. Its core frequency is now pushing that part of human consciousness to be more and more active. So if we are not doing something to calm ourselves on a regular basis, to relax, to enter the alpha or other frequencies, we will naturally be prompted by the Earth to be in this restless mode constantly, or even mode that creates anxiety. And it's just a part of what the Earth itself is trying to do to shed these different layers that have been on the planet for a long time of really just density. And so as the Earth is going through that, we have to understand that we are participating in that. And if we are not careful about watching ourselves, we start participating perhaps in things that are more of destructive nature because we don't understand where the input is coming from. So this is main reason why we can see a lot of unrest and upheavals in the world, is because the Earth itself is now, you can say supporting, but it's not like intentionally supporting. It's just simply a part of a cycle that it's moving through. So being mindful of that and doing something to offset is a paramount.
Yeah, I would say not even the Earth, but also the sun, because lately there are so many solar flares. When you're looking from astrology point of view, this should be a nice day, but like there's like a lot of stuff happening anywhere, everywhere, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's been another solar flares, and you can feel it. Like you may be conscious about it, or not conscious, but it kind of affects us all.
Yeah, and an important part is to know also what a great opportunity it is, because it's not just about the doomsday prophecy. It's really about understanding that the nature and the cosmos is helping us now process everything that's happening much, much quicker. So the karma or the energy, it would maybe take you years to release. Now you can do it in days. That's a phenomenal thing from a spiritual evolution standpoint. So that's something that everybody should use to their advantage.
Yes, I really see it also around my wider circle, like even like friends and their families. Like they finally get to the point where they understand they have to start to do something, even before they said like, therapy is not working, that's not working, that's, everything is kind of fine. But this outer processes, like from Earth, from Sun and everything, it just facilitates so much that you can't look away anymore longer, And it's always been there, like kind of in reality, nothing changed, because you're going through the same patterns you've been doing for years. But at this point, you can't close your eyes anymore on that. And it's not easy, but it's funny and cool at the same time. I always when I get that message, oh, do you know someone who can help with? Then it's like, yes, finally.
Well, that also brings another necessity, which is we really can't wait for something to happen to act on. We really can't. We have to do the prep work. So especially on the days when everything seems fine, still do your meditation, still do whatever you're doing, because unless we are daily conditioning ourselves to stay in equilibrium, when the things really happen to throw us off, we won't have enough strength to maintain that balance. So that's an important part of understanding, because usually when life is good, we're not really stimulated to grow. We just want to stay in that comfort zone. So to me, this is the key, is to do something on a regular basis that helps us maintain balance and do it repeatedly, so that we can slowly condition ourselves to become stronger and stronger, more resilient to those changes.
And you've been done already a lot of practices. You also teach other and help other peoples now. Where lies your challenge? So where growth area right now?
Well, on every stage of development, you realize that there's always so much more. So none of us are done really ever. It's a continual journey, and it's a very humbling thing as well, because you look at someone else's journey and you see the same challenges that you might have been going through, but then at the same time you're also looking for a teacher, because there's somebody who understands better than you do. So you're constantly learning and then doing your best to help as well. For me now, it's mostly about really understanding what people need at this time, and understanding how to express myself in a way that will be able to be understood, to be able to really touch some of those things that people really need. And so I'm trying to take everything that I have learned and create it as part of my work and make it applicable to everyday person, and to see how we can benefit their life. So I'm learning a lot about that, and about how to expand the work and take it further. So maybe reach a wider audience, or address some of the issues that come from people that I have not really worked, or like, how can I say, with the groups of people, or the layers of seeking that people might have that have not touched. So how can I expand into those areas that I have not touched before? So for me, this is the greatest challenge, is in moving forward, is to understand that aspect of how to serve better, how to be available more, so on.
It's actually, it resonates with me a lot what you are saying, because often also when you have teachers or practitioners, they kind of come with that wisdom or ability to help, and sometimes also with advice, like when they advise it from, how to say, I wouldn't like to say higher, but different dimension that the person they are addressing to are even possible to grasp and understand. And if, you know, like even when we say like, okay, we all are creators, in true we are, but in that other level where that person is, he is not creator yet, you know, like in a way he is, but he's so unconsciously doing that right now that it's, you know, and then to match that message with the level of the persons is, I think it's really the key to facilitate it further, because otherwise we are just living on a different floors of the, I don't know, skyscraper.
Yeah, often there's that mismatch. But to me, that's the beautiful part, is that we're all in it together, and we have all been there at some point. That's the key, especially for somebody who's attempting to get out there and be of some service, because otherwise you really cannot relate, or you don't know. So you're definitely right about that.
Yes, and our session interview is coming towards the end, and usually at the end I invite people once again just to briefly sum up what they're doing, and with what kind of issues or queries people can address you, and in what forms you provide your service.
Yeah. So as you said, it's pretty wide. If you are on a spiritual path, on a path of attempting to understand yourself better, life around you better, especially if there are challenges that have come up for you, then this is something that I work with, and that my work is about. It comes in different ways, but anybody who falls into that category can reach out and connect. And so some of the tools are the energy work, work of understanding nature and the elements, working with crystals and mineral kingdom, and then also just learning about the self, learning what are the other parts of us, what is the greater reality that we usually are not aware of, and how does that play in our everyday life, what kind of direct impact that has. So whether it's a class that I'm doing online, or something that I can talk about in a private session, people can still reach out. So the scope of the work doesn't stop there, but this is just what currently is happening, and it's all geared towards just really helping people move through the changes that we're experiencing.
And how people can find you?
They can find me on Facebook as Elias Aethos. They can write to my email, elias@emeraldhealings.net, which also shows you my website, emeraldhealings.net. And yeah, that's usually enough for people just to reach out for the first time, and then we can just go from there.
Okay. Yeah, we will save also this live on our timeline, and after we will also tag you, so through this live they can also access you, and soon this video will be available also on YouTube and our website. And most of the people usually are watching it later on, because it's midst of the working day. But it was a pleasure to talking with you, and for everyone to whom it might seem interesting or resonating, even if you don't understand any about it right now, I think you are really the great person to contact, because there are different ways again how to approach this. Some people go deep diving into the one area and go really like, like let's say yoga, they reach really high knowledge there, and some people do broader spectrum of things and can kind of facilitate and give the insights about wider processes. And I think you can also greatly do that second thing, and which sometimes might be confusing when you start this journey. It's like, okay, so many ways, so many things, how even to address it all. And I think
well, just a side note, that's one reason why I decided to also give people a free introduction sessions, which means that without any obligation or commitment, we can just get on a call like this and just talk for half an hour, see where you're at, what's happening, and then what is my work, and how can I come in and collaborate with you and make things happen. And so I decided to do this because I understand that people are in a lot of uncertainty and they need to find out what is the best way. But I do want to thank you for this opportunity. I really value your work and everything that you're doing to not just spread the word, but to really get the whole movement of spirituality people going. So thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and the time went by so fast.
Yeah, because there are a lot of ways how you could go, and I'm also curious about all these topics myself personally. So it went quick, and thank you so much. And yeah, for everyone who's listening us later, we invite you to visit the Elias website, or just go to the Instagram you can find through this video. And thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And have a nice day. I think you said this was your first interview in Latvia. You will have another interview later on today. It's also on Instagram.
Yeah, it's interesting today. No, it's not on Instagram. It's on a different platform. But it's just, like, I've been here almost my 5th or 6th month here, and then now in the same day I have to do 2 interviews.
Today is the day.
The word is getting out there. That's quite nice.
Thank you. So maybe later on somewhere we can see where that other interview will be placed. It will be most likely also on your social or something you can find, right? Or
yes, it will be on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
It will be
Great.
on Facebook.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. And yes, for sure we will keep in touch. And there are other topics one day maybe I would like to discuss with you. So we might return to this once again after a while. And
I will be available.
yes, thank you. And have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.